Hey everybody, this is Kenny E, Black Iron Tri, and it's hard to believe, but this time next week we will be in Sacramento, in California for IRONMAN California. So 1 week away from traveling to California and 10 days away from the race. It's here, people, it's basically here. But in the meantime, welcome to another episode of Fearless Friday. So I wanted to take this episode to answer a specific question that one of our viewers asked. So it might seem like a straightforward question, but it actually is pretty complex. And that is, what do I expect my time to be in IRONMAN California? In other words, what time do I expect to finish in? Seems straightforward. They asked if I had a goal. I mean, that's two different things, right? Could be what I expect to finish versus what my goal is. And actually it's a little complicated because having raced before, I have some idea of what I want to do. But before I talk about exactly what I think my time's going to be, I wanted to take a chance to kind of explain how you can come to a conclusion or an estimate or a guesstimate of what you think you can do in an Ironman or any kind of triathlon race. It's not as simple as you think. So let's get into it. So first of all, keep in mind that asking somebody what they think their time's gonna be in a race, that's a very personal question for a lot of athletes. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times athletes don't wanna be asked that question, or answer it, I should say, because they feel like it might jinx them. When you actually give someone a time, when you put something out there, you announce a time that you're going to hit or a target, and you know people are tracking you on their apps, on the Ironman app or whatever, they may feel some pressure to actually hit those times. And the reality is, you shouldn't be looking at your time when you're racing. At least not unless you're a pro and you're racing for money, or you think you have a real shot at hitting a podium. And by podium, I mean coming in first, second, or third in your age group or your gender. If you're not in that boat, then generally speaking, coaches are gonna tell you, don't look at the time. You really should be focusing your energy on something other than that. For example, your nutrition, your pacing, but certainly not looking at every second of the swim or the bike or the run or your transitions. You should be focused on keeping your rhythm, keeping your pace, making sure your nutrition's on point. And that's where you should be spending your energy. Again, if you're not chasing money like the pros and you're not chasing a podium, the time is going to take care of itself. That's been my practice. But still, a lot of athletes consider it a kind of a jinxing move to tell somebody a time, because then they're going to be worried about the time. All that to say, I'm not that guy. I don't have a problem with sharing what I think my target's going to be. And I have a range, which we'll get into in a second. But in coming up with a time, there are 5 factors that can impact your time when you're in a race. And it pays to have an idea of what these are. But before we get into the 5 factors that can impact the race, why don't we talk about how you set a baseline? There are 3 things I think that you can use to set a baseline that's based somewhat in reality. The first is prior race experience. If you've done a race of an equal length, so you've done an Ironman before, once or twice before, you have a decent idea of what you can do in an Ironman. That's a real good place to start in terms of trying to guess or estimate how soon or how fast you'll finish this particular race. The second source is detailed training data. You've been training now for months, so you've got a background on biking, on swimming, on running, and to how fast you can do those things. You've done some runs off the bike, so you have an idea of how your legs feel when you get off the bike. So you can use your training data to get somewhat of an idea of how you think you'll finish. Keeping in mind, of course, that you probably haven't practiced an entire race and adjust accordingly. But still, you have some data to set some kind of realistic baseline. And then third is your coach. Your coach is going to know what your capabilities are based on your training data as well. And they'll probably have some idea of what it's going to take to complete your specific race. What you don't want to do is try to base your baseline on like what somebody else did or what you think is going to look good on Strava. That's not based in reality. Base your estimate on experience, on detailed training data, or on what your coach says he thinks or she thinks you can do. So now you've got a number in your head. That's great. That can be your target, and you put that off to the side. But there are 5 important factors that are going to come into play on race day that could impact your time, good or bad. But understand that these factors are non-wavering. Everybody has to deal with them on some level at every race. The first factor is your fitness and fueling. Now, that might seem obvious, but I'm sure you've been to events or heard of events where people have overestimated their fitness in going into a race and then get to the race and find out they aren't as fit as they thought they were. I put this in a category with fueling. In other words, making sure that you're fueling properly before and during the race, because those 2 things are in what I would call the category of things you can control, things you actually have control over. So your fitness and fueling are going to impact your time. You control that. You know how well you've trained, and focusing on putting together a fueling plan, something where you've written down what you're going to do at every stage of the race, specifically the bike and the run. That's going to help you to keep close to your time. Failure to plan that is planning to fail. You've heard it before. So that about does it for things you control. The second factor that's going to come into play is the race course. Now, this kind of dances the line between things you control and things you don't control, because you can decide which courses you're going to run, which races you're going to do. But keep in mind that every venue is different. When you look at a course, you have to look at things like, does the bike have a lot of climbing? For example, the bike in Chattanooga has almost 5,000 feet of climbing for the full Ironman. When I did Florida, it was more along the lines of 2,000. 3,000 feet difference is a lot. And you can't expect to have the same, for example, bike time, assuming that your fitness and everything else is equal. You probably shouldn't expect to have the same bike time on a ride that has 3,000 more feet of climbing than another ride. So race course is important. Is the swim downriver or is it in an ocean?
At the Tennessee River today, going to try to take a practice swim. Watching somebody else, he's swimming against the current here and basically not moving an inch.
Is the run, is there any part of the run that's on the grass? So the course comes into play. So keep that in mind when trying to estimate a time. The third factor, and this is a favorite, is the weather. The weather is going to play a part whether you like it or not. Sometimes the weather will be perfect, a lot of times it won't be. And you won't really have any kind of warning other than the week before the race, maybe, right? You don't know if it's going to rain. You don't know if it's going to be super cold or super, super hot. And we hear a lot of people complaining about it being too hot. Heat will suck time away from you on the bike and the run like nothing else. I've heard estimates of anywhere from 5 to 20 seconds per mile for every 5 degrees difference or degree difference or whatever. But if it's hot outside, your times are gonna show that. They're gonna be impacted by that. It's gonna change your fueling plan, potentially. You're gonna sweat more, you're gonna wanna take in more electrolytes, you're gonna wanna take in more fluid, but all of these things have a potential to impact your time. Fourth factor are mechanicals. So this is things that go wrong with your gear during the ride. I try to make sure that my bike is in tip-top shape before I go to a race, but yet and still, even the pros experience things like flat tires, broken spokes on the bike, something going wrong with their gear. Usually the bike when you're talking mechanical, because there's so much going on with that, as opposed to, you know, your running shoes or something, probably not gonna have as many issues there. But mechanicals will definitely bite your time. A flat tire is gonna impact your time whether you like it or not. A more serious mechanical something that could potentially be fixed on course, but you don't have the tools to fix them, you've got to wait for one of the support vehicles to get to you. And who knows how long that'll be, depending on the course and depending on how well supported the race is in terms of backup vehicles. So mechanicals is a fourth factor that's going to impact your time. The fifth factor is what I call the X factors. And these are things, anything I haven't already mentioned. So for example, race logistics. You get to the race and for some reason, the race organizers have had to make a change to the course in some way, shape, or form that was not spelled out in the athlete guide. This could impact your time. Other X factors are things like traffic. A lot of times you're on these races, they try their best to close off roads or whatever, but not all roads are closed, and sometimes you'll go through an intersection, you'll see cars waiting. There could be an instance where a vehicle goes into an intersection and has an accident. That's going to impact the riders coming through that intersection on their bikes and potentially run course as well. Another X factor are other athletes. This is just reality as well. You're out there with 1,000 or 1,500 of your closest friends, and people don't always do what you expect them to do, what you want them to do. People don't always follow the rules, and this could potentially impact you. For example, let's say you're in a race and they have a no drafting policy. So you have to stay a certain amount of distance behind the bike in front of you. There are rules about passing them. You say you go to pass someone and then they decide they don't want to be passed. So they start speeding up, causing you to have to make a decision. Do you burn a bunch of matches trying to pass them? Or do you back up off your speed so that you don't get penalized? Either way, it has an impact to your race. And this is because of someone else's actions. I've been in a swim where someone in front of me on the swim was actually teaching someone or helping someone that they were with swim, and they were in my way. And I had to stop swimming, find a way around them, which is not always easy in water. It's not as easy as it may sound. Get around them to continue my swim race. So other athletes is another X factor. And then another example of an X factor is what I call non-weather nature. And the only reason that made my list is because I had a race in Florida where we were battling jellyfish. And you will hear about this in other races. Jellyfish are no fun. They like people and they look beautiful under the water, but they get close and they sting. The race course in Florida for the Ironman in Panama City Beach is actually 2 loops of a mile course, right? So there were people that got out of the first loop and didn't get back in the water. They took the DNF rather than go and fight those jellyfish. I got back in the water and I got stung 3 times for my trouble, including 1 time in the face. But I did finish that race, but there's no question that having to deal with jellyfish impacted my time. So that's kind of a summary of what I think are the 5 factors that can impact your race time. Your fitness and your fueling, the race course itself, weather, mechanicals, and X factors. Now, all that said, let's get into what I think my time's gonna be. So here's a list of the times I've had in Ironman. I've done Chattanooga twice. The first time in 2018, they actually canceled the swim. So I had no swim time there. Still finished the rest of the race, but felt I had some unfinished business. I went back and was gonna go back in 20, but of course COVID had something to say about that. So I did get to go back in 21. And actually, so far, that's been my best time at 13 hours, 51 minutes, 52 seconds. I then did Ironman Florida in 22 with the same 2 friends that I'm doing California with, Mark and Katie, and didn't do as well. Now, what's interesting here is I don't think I was nearly as fit for Florida as I was for Chattanooga. I would have expected, based on my body type and the weather and everything else, that that Florida would have been faster than Chattanooga. Much less climbing to do on the bike, and the run as well is flatter than Chattanooga. But here you can see I did not do as well overall. I did finish the race, but I didn't beat my last time. So right now, my personal best is at 13 hours and 51 minutes. That said, I have a few targets and ranges. So here they are. First and foremost, I want to finish the race. We have 17 hours to finish the overall race. So far, I haven't flirted with that in an Ironman. So, but you know, anything could happen. That said, finishing the race is a good day. I'll consider it. I'll be all right with that. I will not be mad as long as I can say I finished. Getting somewhere under 15 hours. I've done all my races in under 15 hours. So this would be satisfactory. I'd be happy with that. Under 14, now we're flirting with a personal best. If I could beat my personal record, that's always what we call PR, personal record, or PB, personal best. If I could beat that, how can I not be happy with that? I would be thrilled to be able to set a new personal record for Ironman in California. Now, if I could get under 13 hours, now that is the golden chalice for me. Under 13 hours for me would be heaven. I would party. You couldn't tell me anything. if I could beat 13, it would mean beating my current personal best by at least or close to an hour if I barely made it, or more than an hour. That is a hell of an improvement, race over race, especially since I'm 3 years older now. Although we know that with the right training, that is not a big age difference. So I am in a different age group this time. I was in the 50 to 54 when I set those other times. Now I'm in the 55 to 59 range. But under 13, if I have a 12 in my time, I would be on cloud 9. And then my stretch goal is under 12. And that's doing better than perfect. You can see under 13, that's a perfect day plus some luck, and then I'd need a whole lot more luck to get under 12. So that's it. That's my target, is to get somewhere under, definitely under 14, and preferably under 13 hours would be magnificent. And to give you some further perspective, last year at Ironman California, the pros, or the elite age groupers, I'm not sure which this is, but the fastest times were in the sub 9 range. So the fastest athletes in Ironman California 2024 came in at under 9 hours. And then in my age group, the top 10 were all under 11 hours. So the top 10 men, age 55 to 59, were all under 11 hours. So I'm not really flirting with any podium or anything here, in being realistic about my chances. That all said, this is a downriver swim. My understanding is that the current in the American River, which is the first river we swim in, is kind of spicy, to the point where you need to be concerned about controlling your speed a little bit, or at least your direction. It is more than likely wetsuit legal, which means I will have buoyancy help in this race. And the organizers say that both the bike and the run are flat. And if that's the case, that favors heavier riders like me. And so I have the best shot of hitting those lower times in this race from the surface. What it doesn't get into are weather, because there's no telling, and wind. Flat courses are great unless the wind's blowing directly in your face. And again, larger riders act like wind sails to win. Wind is the number one thing you're fighting when you're racing on a bike. And so any kind of stiff wind could definitely impact my time negatively. That said, I am really looking forward to this race, and I'm really looking forward to setting a PR this time. And so excitement is at an all-time high. We're 10 days away from the race as of this Friday, 9 or 10 days, probably 9 days. And so it's time to go. It's time to hit it. And I hope that answers the viewer's question about what my time is going to be. It's a long answer, but I thought it required and deserved a little bit of explanation as to one, why it's tough to give a time, just a blanket time as terms of target, and two, why a lot of athletes might not answer your question. Do not be insulted if they don't answer the question. It is a very personal goal, and so they aren't telling you not because they don't like you, it's because they want to keep that kind of close to the vest, and not set any expectations outside of themselves for those who might be watching and wondering and caring about them. All right. So with that said, thanks for joining us for this Fearless Friday. Hope everybody's having a fantastic, we're entering fall here now, and wish us the best here in California next week. Hopefully I'll get one more video out before the race, but no promises. I'd like to show everybody what it's like to get set up and get ready and packed for this race. It's my first race flying. I've never flown to an Ironman, to any triathlon race, except for San Diego, and that was kind of an exception. I didn't take a bike, I rented a bike, and it was an Olympic, and it was very early in my triathlon career, before I'd ever done an Ironman. So, and I was there for work. I didn't fly to go to the race. I was going there for work, and they happened to have a race that week. So I took advantage of that. That said, this is Kenny E. signing off from Black Iron Tri and Fearless Fridays. And remember, you do not have to be the fastest, just be fearless.
No, I ain't giving you up. Giving you up, no.